Okay, so this is today's story, number 27 from Unshakable Spirit. All things come to an end. This happened when EQ, the famously clever Zen monk, was an acolyte of 7 or 8. One day, after the head priest had stepped out for a while, EQ visited his room and found another acolyte there, crying his eyes out. What's wrong? Asked EQ. You know that antique tea bowl that was a gift from the shogun, the one the master likes to show off to guests? I wanted to see it, so I took it out of the box and was admiring it when it dropped, and it broke. He held up the two halves of the bowl, sobbing. That's all you're upset about? Said EQ. It's too bad, but there's no point in crying. Don't forget you're studying to be a Zen priest. You mustn't fall apart over a little thing like a broken dish. Have some pride. A Zen priest shouldn't cry. If tears could put the tea bowl back together, then you could cry all you liked, but since they won't, why don't you stop all that noise? Is that all you can say? Wailed the other boy. Of course, crying doesn't help, I know, but that just makes me cry even more. Have a heart. Cheer up, said EQ. We disciples have to stick together. I'll see what I can do. How is this? I'll say I'm the one who broke it. Now you don't have to cry, do you? Would you really do that for me? Thanks. You're so smart, EQ. I'm sure you can figure out a way to make the master calm down. If you do, I promise I'll give you all my bean jam buns from now on. And so, with a promise of bean jam buns that might or might not materialize, EQ agreed to take the blame. He stuck the broken pieces carefully in the sleeve of his kimono, went straight to the lecture hall, and played games as usual. In the evening, when the head priest returned, EQ went out to greet him with the rest. Catching sight of his star pupil, the older man beamed and called out, Well, EQ, what mischief have you been up to today? None, master. I was in the lecture hall all day meditating on a koan. A likely story, I'll bet you were napping. No, master, I meditated with all my might, but there was one problem I couldn't solve. What is it? Tell me. All right, my question is, must all people die or not? What is the truth concerning birth and death? Well, you're a bright boy, but you're still young. Here, I'll explain it for you. The Buddha taught us that everyone who is born must die. No one can escape death, not even Buddha himself, nor any hero who ever lived. Death is that powerful? Replied EQ. I see. That's one problem solved. Thank you. Is there something else? Yes, my other question is, do all things in this world come to an end or not? What is the truth concerning being and non-being of the things in this world? Right or not, what a child you are to be fretting about such things. I'll tell you exactly how it is. Everything in this world is doomed to perish. Buddha taught us that. Keep it well in mind. But master, pursued EQ, what if something is very precious and we take extra special care of it? Then won't it last forever? No, no matter how careful we are, everything comes to an end when its time comes. I see, so time too is very powerful. Yes, indeed, not even Buddha could stop time or alter its effects. Thanks to you, Master, all the problems I struggled with today have been cleared up. Those who are born must die, and everything that has form must come to an end. These are the great truths of the universe. That's right, they are unchanging laws. So even if someone important to you dies, you shouldn't weep or wail in sorrow. And even if an object important to you is broken, you shouldn't get angry and carry on. In either case, you should accept that it was time for that to happen and let go without regret. That is true enlightenment, isn't it? Yes, you've got it. I certainly am lucky to have one so enlightened as my master. Now, flattery will get you nowhere. I'm not giving you anything, so don't fish. No, master, but I have something to give you. Calmly, EQ pulled out the broken pieces of the prized tea bowl. Here is something whose time had come. The head priest was taken aback, but after all he had just said, he could hardly administer a scolding. His only comment was a bemused, I see, its time had come, all right. Yeah, this is a funny story that I hope someday someone will turn it into a play. It's very educational and about the principle of impermanence that we learn a lot about in Buddhism. All things will come to an end and nothing will stay the same. Everything is changing. And it's one thing to understand it in theory and write books on it or toy with it in our heads as a theory. And it's one thing else if it happens to us, we experience that impermanence, the inevitability of change, and how we're gonna overcome it through the Dharma, the listening to the teachings of the Buddha. So yeah, I think that's what we learned from this story. First, we need to understand it conceptually, but then the more we listen to Buddhism, the more we begin to see our true nature and its response to the impermanence of this world. And people who learn to accept it, so they free themselves from a lot of unnecessary suffering. But obviously, it's easier said than done. So that's why listening to the Dharma and hearing it until it's second nature becomes crucial. So good job, everyone, for being here and have a wonderful evening. Bye.